Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we are doing a slightly different review, and please excuse my voice. I have a bit of a scratchy throat, courtesy of whatever my kid brought back from school again. But we will be looking at the ships that are currently in the Blitz Pass. Yes, ships, because there are two of them. We do have the Eastern Dragon and the Southern Dragon. I'm not gonna go much into the whole event sort of story thing, but these are effectively Myokos, so premium Myokos, and apparently you get two of them for the premium Blitz Pass. So that's nice. Let's take a look and see what these two things are capable of and how they differ from the actual Myoko, because the Myoko was not a bad ship. And we will be playing one battle in each of them. They're similar enough that I figured, it doesn't make sense to make two review videos out of it. Instead, we'll look at both of them. So let's begin with the Eastern Dragon and compare her to the Myoko. The Eastern Dragon gets the Myoko's precise aim, but on top of that, she also gets 2 fuel smokes and a torpedo reload booster. Because it's in the Pan-Asian tech tree, because it's Chinese ships, we have deep water torpedoes instead of the regular Japanese torpedoes that we get on the Myoko. Other than that, they are very, very similar. Same hull, same maneuverability. The guns are a little bit different. So the Eastern Dragon is actually a tick slower on the reload and has very slightly shorter range on the guns. The torpedoes do a bit less damage, have less range as well, but they reload about 10 seconds faster, plus you get the 1 torpedo reload booster. So there's a bit more that you can do with them in terms of just spamming them. The rest, the AA and the concealment, are completely identical. So we have a Myoko with the same precise aim, with a very slight nerf on the guns, but in return she gets 2 fuel smokes and a torpedo reload booster, plus faster reloading torpedoes. So sort of the Pan-Asian scout cruiser play on applied to a Myoko. If we're looking at the Southern Dragon, that is a different beast altogether. The Southern Dragon does not get the precise aim. Instead, she gets a defensive AA, which is interesting. She gets engine boosts, and she gets the combat instruction. Now, this is a bit of a weird one, because this combat instruction has been copied over from the South American cruisers, and it gives us 10% armor-piercing shell penetration and 10% dispersion reduction. So this is effectively half a precise aim, because I think the precise aim 1 gives you 25. So this only gives you 10. Plus you get a little bit of AP pen, and it has to charge up instead of just being readily available. Instead of the torpedo reload booster, we get the engine boost, and instead of the fuel smoke, we have a defensive AA. That is an odd combination of things, but let's look at the actual ship statistics. Again, we have the exact same hull, we've got the same maneuverability. The guns are, for all intents and purposes, the same as on the Myoko, with a very slight range advantage. And the torpedoes are, again, sort of the same, but not. We'll have to compare the two of them in a minute. They do get a somewhat faster reload, but they don't get the range debuff. Otherwise, the AA and concealment are the same. So how do the two ships compare to each other? Let's do that as well. Again, hull, maneuverability, all the same. The Southern Dragon has the slightly better guns, whereas the torpedoes, it's kind of a mixed bag. So she does a bit more damage, but has a 5-second slower reload, has the same range as Myoko, but has a bit more of a flooding chance. So how do these two play, and what are really the differences between them? Well, we're gonna have to. I think the Eastern Dragon is a relative no-brainer. It's a Pan-Asian cruiser, just as a heavy cruiser instead of the light cruiser. The Southern Dragon is where it gets a little interesting. So here's my problem with this thing. The combat instruction is nice. but it is also utterly useless. Because this is a Myoko, and the Myoko armor-piercing shells are garbage. Japanese heavy cruiser armor-piercing, I think mostly up to probably tier 9 or 10. That's when they start actually being not completely terrible, but in the mid-tiers, the armor-piercing on the Myoko is rubbish. 10% penetration increase doesn't change that. So there are very few scenarios where you can actually make use of this combat instruction. For the most part, it is it's a precise aiming light, so like a 40% precise aim 1, a precise aim 0.4 or something if you wanted. The armor piercing shell penetration improvement really doesn't help you unless you are top tier and you're shooting probably at tier 6 light cruisers, fully broadsiding, something like that, at point blank range. That's kind of when this works. But other than that, it's completely useless. So most of the time you'll be having the HE loaded anyway. And in that case, you only get the dispersion buff, which isn't that great. Plus you need to charge the down thing up. So if you're not using it, you're losing the next charge. Defensive AA. I mean, this is no Brooklyn. And while the AA isn't completely terrible, it doesn't suddenly turn this into an AA cruiser, especially if she's bottom tier. So you will not be able to defend yourself against, say, any of the tier 7 carriers really on your own. You can lend a little bit of a hand, but this is not a support cruiser either. I mean, you could argue that she's okay to play at long range, but then what's the speed boost for? These things and the better torpedo range. These things, Japanese heavy cruisers are their own kind. They're assault cruisers, but not the American heavy cruiser style where you find yourself an island, but more of the sneaky ambush torpedo spam kind of style and kite away long range HE spam kind of style. That's what the engine boost is for. So the defensive AA is kind of useless as well. Let's have a quick look at the setup between the two. First of all, these come with perma camos. So no, you can't change the camo. It comes with the camo, but you can't change it. That means it's technically a historical camo for free, which isn't a bad thing. It's just that, and looks-wise, they're not terrible either. I mean, they are way, way, way worse things. So I would call that a good thing. On the Eastern Dragon, we get main battery range, torpedo range, max traverse, and surface detection. So the values we've seen in the comparison are hypothetical because you literally cannot sail without the camo, I think. I have actually let's go through the rest of it in order. Camouflage we've done. You get the elite gun operator, which is what I would use here because there's really no point in styling this thing for AA. You get the choice, I think, in slot 1, for me at least, between main battery mod 1 and main battery mod 2. Main battery mod 1 helps you a bit more with getting your guns on target. If you decide to play hyper-aggressive, which I would not necessarily do in these cruisers because they are not the most maneuverable. They're better suited towards area denial, long-range, HE spam, torpedo spam. And you might as well use the main battery mod 2 because you have 5 gun turrets. So if you get one shot off, it's not the end of the world, and you get a bit faster reload. Also, I'm sailing these with the concealment module because, well, we have a historical camouflage built in, and concealment is your friend. That said, the eventual values out of this at the end get us an 8.11 kilometer torpedo range compared to a just under 7 kilometer concealment, which is a good concealment, a very good concealment. It means you kind of can stealth torpedo, but you don't have an awful lot of margin. And that's literally where the fuel smoke comes in that you can use to, conceal yourself if you have to do a stealth torpedo run while you would otherwise have been spotted. Commander. There is an obvious epic commander that you want to put on it, so I did that. The obvious epic commander gives us 2 things. One of them being the Fire Supremacy Plus, which gives us an extra torpedo reload and an extra precise aim. Not needing it for the rapid reload because she doesn't have any, but it gives us an extra torpedo reload, which is nice. and the Giant Hunter Plus, which means we're doing more damages to anything that isn't a destroyer, which isn't a difficult thing to do because damage with torpedoes, doing damage with torpedoes against destroyers is literally not possible because you have deep waters and they can't hit destroyers. I am running a IFAG, not because it gives a massive benefit, just because the AP is so useless that APCS is a kind of waste here, and at least if my experience with the Myokos is going anything by, I've scored more citadels with HE on a Myoko than with AP. Going over to the Southern Dragon, it gets a little more difficult. So this thing gets main battery range, main battery dispersion, and max traverse speed. She does not get concealment. She gets hit points instead, which is not something I'm particularly keen on. But again, you don't really get a choice, so there's not much you can do about this. The setup otherwise is relatively similar. If we are looking at the upgrades, here you sort of could think of doing an AA build, but I'm really not feeling that. Not with a Def AA1. If it was a Def AA2 or a Def AA3, then maybe, but with a Def AA1, I'm not really seeing that. I'd rather go with the main batteries because this is more of the gunship variant, or more of the traditional Myoko variant. And the equipment is the same. And here we have the Southern Dragon Legendary Commander, which gives us an extra air defense alert, which, given that the AA power is, I mean, it's not terrible if you're sticking with your team, but if you're sticking with your team, you're sort of negating most of the benefits that the Japanese assault cruiser style that you can apply here, because it's literally the same thing, just with deep water torpedoes, has. Still, it's an epic skill, so I'm getting it. It also gives us the engine overload plus, which is nice. So we can be relocating a lot faster, and that really is the main power of the ship. The speed she can get. I have used the APCS skill here, literally just because I wanted to see how much of an impact that makes with the armor piercing, and it's not the greatest. So you can use it. The problems with the Myokos guns is that they're not accurate enough at range to hit weak spots of battleships. And if you're fighting at close range in a Myoko, then you're not doing it right, in my opinion. So it's really just against cruisers, and I wanted to see what that can do. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Other than that, it's a relatively similar setup. And yeah, if we look at the values that we get here now, we have the 8.4 kilometer torpedo range. So with the historical camo, the difference is actually relatively marginal. And we have a slightly worse concealment with 7.3 kilometer surface detection rather than the just scratch under 7. You're going to start feeling like which ship I like better. They're both not bad ships. Let me just put that out there just right away, because the Myoko is not a bad ship. The Myoko is a pretty good ship in my opinion, if you play her to her strength, and her strength is to be an assault cruiser, but at a distance, with HE spam, with torpedo spam, and with good concealment. That's the style, and you can transplant this style relatively easily to these. It's just that on the Eastern Dragon, it feels like the torpedo setup makes her a lot more dangerous than the slightly wonky AP focused setup that you have on the other ship. All right, we'll see 2 battles, and I haven't put premium consumables in, but because the camos were fixed, they're just going to be with the full setup commander here, just to see what the impact here is. And yeah, I'll be playing 1 game in each of them. We'll start out with the Eastern Dragon in a Tier 7 game, Epicenter on Frozen Shelter. We're facing a Nagato, Mackensen, a Surrey, another Eastern Dragon, and a Fubuki, so it's a 5v5. Epicenter, of course, means capture the bases, but this is not what these ships are for. That doesn't mean you have to sail completely outside the capture circles, but you certainly don't necessarily want to rush into the middle. Because remember, you have deep water torpedoes, so you can't torpedo enemy destroyers, and you will struggle against destroyers in point-blank engagements. That's not what these ships are for. Anyway, we've got now 2 torpedo reloads due to the legendary captain, or epic captain rather. And I'm going to sneak up around, probably around the outer side of the mountain. Now, you've seen the torpedo angles, and in typical Myoko fashion, they're not great. In fact, they're really terrible. But that just means you have to adjust your playstyle accordingly, because these ships are not meant to be highly agile dogfighters. They are more long-range torpedo kiting ships of sorts. Anyway, so far we haven't scouted anything. I think the two bots are probably going to be heading into the center of things, so we'll let them scout stuff, and we'll just poke our nose around the corner here to see what our opposition is. Our two battleships, obviously a thing, but this is a good position to do something about any kind of destroyer that wants to sneak into the center cup, because you're in a good flanking position. And I'm reasonably certain that I can outspot anything except for the destroyers. For example, that Surrey there. Hello, Mr. Surrey. Okay, there is the bot Alba and the Surrey. Not much else here. I'm spotted because the bot Alba is obviously coming straight for me. So I'm going to have to deal with that thing. Set fire on the Surrey. And maybe another one. And then we'll just torpedo the Alba. So that would be that. And no sign of the destroyers just yet. I'm not sure where the enemy oh, no, they're on the other side. Okay, so torpedoes out at the Alba. No need to use the reload. Alba is dead. And yep, there's the Fubuki. And this is what I mean with this is a dangerous position for against enemy destroyers, because they can no longer hide. If they come around the other side, they'll be shot at by the rest of my team, whereas if they stay here, they'll be shot at by me. And the HE is perfectly capable of doing a lot of damage against that Fubuki, plus I am using the island ahead of myself to shield myself from the incoming fire from the enemy Eastern Dragon and from the Mackensen, whereas the enemy Nagato is on the other end of the map. But I think we have not quite managed to clean up. But that said, we're now in an extremely aggressive forward position. There's the enemy Eastern Dragon. So I'm going to use my smoke screen because ships that are smoked up don't exist. Then I'm going to drop my torpedoes on him. And going to get a widespread from the torpedo reload out at the same time, and then I'm going to turn away. Now, he is sailing the same ship as me, so this shouldn't work. But you know, it's mid-tier. He is firing armor piercing at me, which is maybe not the best choice. But now we've got the Surrey to work with over here. Surrey obviously has torpedoes as well. And let's see where he's going. But we've landed a couple of torpedoes on the enemy Eastern Dragon, and hopefully, yeah, I have to move out, which means I'm going to probably run into Surrey torpedoes. I have to move out because of the Eastern Dragon. Surrey might have launched torpedoes already, so I'm just going to gamble here and go forward, hoping that he had... No, he actually launched the torpedoes late. Okay, well, I'm going to take a torpedo or two. Surrey has avoided my torpedoes. So that was a bit of a 50-50, but we can take that. And the Surrey is going to be dead before he can do very much against it, because he's been taking a couple of shots already early on, and I simply just don't need to give broadside to him in order to get rid of him. Plus, he's found something else to shoot at, so I'm going to get rid of Surrey. We are holding the center cup, and that just leaves the two battleships and the enemy Eastern Dragon. You see, if you're sailing the ship and you encounter somebody else sailing the same ship, you should be aware that they have torpedoes. But yeah. That worked out reasonably well, so now we're just going to turn around and find ourselves some of the battleships to farm. Nope, there's the enemy Eastern Dragon still. Okay, get a couple shots off at that thing and get in range of the two battleships, which are just sitting on the outer ring, so there's not an awful lot they're going to be doing. To his credit, he is not damage controlling a single fire, so well done you. I'm going to use my smoke here, so I can cover my turn just in case he is dropping torpedoes. It doesn't give him a torpedo lock on. And then we'll just let the fire burn there. Let him deal with other things. And, well, are you coming back around? You are. Okay, you're coming back around. Okay, I'm about to pretend that I'll be focusing on the Nagato. Then I'm going to drop some torpedoes in your general direction. I mean, you know that I'm here, right? And you know that I have torpedoes. You've run into them before. And then I'll pretend I didn't see you and shoot at the Mackensen. And then turn around to avoid the inevitable torpedo drop. And that should not have worked. I am sorry, but it shouldn't. First time, okay. Second time, not so much. Anyway, there come his torpedoes, or what's left of them. They might have hit the island, but now I've just got some battleships to shoot at. But I'm extremely low on hit points, and if they really want me dead, I think they really want me dead. They've seen what I've done to the team, and I'm gonna back off. But yeah, both the Nakansen and the Nagato are now busy shooting at me. I'm going to dodge the Mackensen shots. That's not too hard. Mackensen isn't the most precise, but Nagato is a different story altogether. Let's see if we can get under the eventually incoming Nagato salvo. See if we can get him to overshoot. Where is it? Well, maybe we can get... Nah, never mind. Nagato takes me out. I mean, I was a one-shot kill for the Nagato for a single shell, so that's that. But I think we've done a fair amount of damage, and got 3 kills on our name, plus 300 points obviously on the team score due to this being epicenter. So this is a very, very dangerous Myoko because it's got a torpedo reload, which means it actually has 15 torpedoes that it can launch, even though the torpedoes don't quite have the same range and do a bit less damage than the actual Myokos, but still it is a relatively dangerous ship. The fuel smoke makes it extra tricky to deal with, because you can play this thing more aggressively than you would a stock standard Myoko, because you do have the fuel smoke as a get out of jail free card. And this is an excellent ship, just as the Myoko is as well. I like the Myoko. This is a good ship. Great concealment, free perma camo on it, and more torpedo firing power. I am in favor, so all in all recommended on that front. Now let's try out the other one and see how that comes out. Now the Southern Dragon doesn't quite have the same flair to it because of the relatively useless ship skills. But we are also in hard mode now, because we are facing Atlantico, North Carolina, Colorado, Nagato, Black Shapayev, an Eastern Dragon, and a Gajah. Now don't be fooled, you are not hunting destroyers in this thing. In this case, you really just want to drop torpedoes and HE shells at range at things and make yourself useful. That said, the one thing that this ship has going for her over her sisters is the engine boost. So given that we have no destroyers around D Cup, I'm going to use the engine boost early and just get up to speed, because all I just want is to grab D early and then inch my nose into C Cup. I will be able to outspot everything in this ship except for the other dragon and for the Gajah. So I should definitely be able to poke my nose into C and then spot the enemy battleships and get myself into the position I want to be before I have to start dealing with things. But first things first, D Cup it is. And with the engine boost running, she does a fair amount of speed. So we're getting into the capture circle even before the friendly destroyer is committing suicide in B Cup. Because with the Black Shapi out there, I am not sure that's a wise choice. I mean, the Gajah can't torpedo him, so maybe it's not a terrible choice. We'll see. Anyway, I'm going to go over into C Cup, take care of that, and then we will see how that ends up and what we can spot to shoot at. So far, we've got one battleship and yes, one of the cruisers over in B. There's the Black Shapayev. Okay, so he did not have to contend with the Black Shapi. It's a lucky destroyer. He might be able to get out of there after all. And we have the Shapayev is sailing away. I'm not sure why he went this way around, but we have a Colorado to shoot at, so we might as well start making ourselves useful. There's Nagato over there, and not much else is spotted. So let's get into a position from where we can start unloading at the Colorado. Maybe we can get into torpedo range as well, and see if we can get him to waste his salvo. This is a bit risky for fire coming in from around B Cup. There comes the incoming fire from the Colorado. Yep, that actually hurt more than it should have. But I am now in a position to launch some torpedoes against the Colorado and then get the heck out of here, while trying to set him on fire and let the rest of my team take the fire. Yep, there comes the fire from the center, but there is the Atlantico. Well, Atlantico, hello. And there's also the enemy Gajah. We still have our destroyer, to my great surprise. Cleveland can do something about the Gajah if he wants to, but Gajah will obviously have dropped torpedoes to the center. Yep, there they come, and we've landed only 2 torpedoes, 3, make that 3 on the Colorado. Dang it, one more would have done the trick. That is a fire on the Atlantico, but unfortunately, due to the Garja's torpedoes, I now actually have to vacate, while my battleships are hilariously oblivious to the obvious torpedo threat. So we are... Okay, we have managed to kill the Colorado. Well done. So that was the first one down, which means we can now engine boost up, get around the southern end of the island, and find ourselves another position from where we can do some mayhem. Okay, that was a Sims on our side, and he seems to have survived, which is very surprising to me. Anyway, everybody is relatively committed, but Eastern Dragon and Garja are making a push here, so... hello! Well, he did. The Veneto had the semi-armor piercing loaded, so that Gajamada was never going to get around that island alive. He might still have torpedoes away, but Veneto is now under fire from the Atlantico, obviously, because it's an Atlantico. Can we do something about that darn thing? Unfortunately, he's tucked in behind the island there, so my battleships don't actually have range on him. And the Monarch has been taken out. Now my chargey up thing, my combat instruction is active, or it's not active, but it's ready. So there's some threat on the left here, but I really want that. I really wanted that Atlantico, but he's buggered off. That's a North Carolina. I do not want to be hit by that. Yep. But I do have the Black Shapayev now to shoot at, so it's a good time to see what the combat instruction is capable of against a light cruiser. First of all, let's try and go undetected. Nah, never mind. It's a light cruiser. The Atlantico can't shoot at me because he's behind the island, so I should be reasonably safe engaging that Shapayev at very close range. And we'll fire up the combat instruction. That's plus 10% AP pen and plus 10% dispersion. And I mean, it's not bad. It's better than Myoko AP, but it's still not really. It's still not really that much worth it, in my opinion. Against cruisers, yes, you are going to do more damage, but once it's off, just remember to get back. This is with the APCS Plus as well, by the way. Was it APCS Plus? No, it wasn't, I think. Anyway, with APCS. So don't forget to switch back to the HE, which is all in all the better choice because you will be setting fires, and fires are good. Now there will be torpedoes. There comes in some battleship armor piercing. And we are kill ahead, but I'm taking a lot of damage here at this point because some of my battleships have peeled off to the north and are trying to make a flanking move around, which means I was suddenly spotted over here. And I think the Sims is still trying to make something happen as well. So I do need to get out of here. Can I get some torpedoes onto the North Carolina? Yes, maybe. So torpedoes up, that's my last heal that I can use, and a couple more shots at the Nagato, and then I do need to make myself scarce, because, yeah. And the Vittorio Veneto is on very low hit points. He is gonna go down. We're gonna get some torpedoes. I don't think I'll have range at Nagato, but we're gonna get some torpedoes on the North Cal for at least. Yep, there they go. And a couple more torpedoes at Nagato. Oh, they just run out, dang it. Okay, let's see if we can follow up with a fire on the NC. And now I've got the combat instruction ready again, but there's no use because I'm firing HE at the North Carolina. I might still use it, but just for the dispersion. Okay, that's one perma. Let's get the torpedoes away. Ooh, that's gonna hurt. Ah, dang it, he was paying attention. Anyway, we'll peel off. I only have 6,000 hit points left at this point. I think 40 seconds. Sims, you're still on full hit points. Can you get rid of that Nagato? Okay, I'm going to use the combat instructions just for the dispersion, and then we'll switch to AP for increased damage. But if Nagato can't control the fires, he's dead anyway. But we'll just finish him off regardless. Atlantico kills the Cleveland. I get the Nagato, but it's just not enough unless we can kill the NC in time to make anything happen. But I think not quite. Yeah, he got away. So not gonna happen. If the Sims had maybe torpedoes at him, but not happening. So, well, despite the best efforts, it wasn't quite enough. But still, you can kind of see the difference between the two ships, I think. And I would say, to nobody's great surprise, the Atlantico comes out on top. If you don't kill these things fast, they do a lot of damage. Let's see how we match up, though. I'm still coming out at top of the team, though, which is surprising. But Yeah, you see, it depends a little on your situations, but the damage potential on both ships is relatively similar. I would definitely prefer the torpedo boat, just because the skills are more useful. And but that said, they're still both two very good cruisers because they are Myokos, and a Myoko is a good cruiser. So as long as you play them to their strengths, then you don't really have much to complain about these things. So if you're up for the Blitz Pass, I'm not 100% certain if they were both in the Blitz Pass or if they were just loaners from the Blitz Pass, but I've seen them. I think I've seen them in the Blitz Pass in one capacity or the other. So if you can get your hands on the torpedo one, that's the better choice in my opinion, but they're still both good ships. And that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Actually, wait. One thing I forgot to mention. Yes, they're both good ships, but if you don't want to spend money and you just want a good, Myoko, it's there to grind on tier 7. And it's not a terrible choice if you like the stealthy assault cruiser style that you can play with the Japanese. Anyway, now that's it for me today. See you next time. Bye-bye.